right, welcome to this week's episode of TRP. Our normal has been restored with Matt back from Spain and Ruben probably back from something with a Spanish person. I don't know. He's Puerto Rican, he's Cuban, Haitian, I don't know.
Yes, we just made it into the country.
Very good, very good. The lineup this episode will be a little interesting. There was relatively breaking news because Gary Sanchez is now the 12th Yankee on the injured list. So
there is a God. Sorry.
He's with the 27 titles, I'm assuming still a Yankees fan, but the Mets knew all about having teams start out severely injured. So you are a good person to talk about that.
Yes.
But yeah, Gary has had some leg problems. That's why he was out of the lineup on the 10th, and he pinch hit late in the game. So if he was hurt, I'm not sure that was the smartest choice by Aaron Boone. But yeah, retroactive to yesterday, he is on the 10-day IL, and just adding to the storm that is the start of the Yankee season. Although we do get CC Sabathia back this weekend for the series with the White Sox. But yeah. That is
80-year-old CC to the rescue.
Hey, CC has the not the lowest contact rate, but the hits that he gets tend to not be hit hard. He's got the highest soft contact rate.
I thought you were going to say highest soft content rate, and I was like, let's not talk about his weight while we're at it.
Wonderful. I love me some CC Sabathia. So it's his last year. It's probably for the best. Missing it, mostly because of surgeries. He's had heart problems, leg problems. Always good times. But we talk about one dumpster fire and go to another. Chris Davis of the Baltimore Orioles is on just sort of one of the most prolific hitless streaks. Literally
he's on a tear.
Yeah,
the tear.
He has torn nothing except he is 0 for 53. I think hitless in his last 61 plate appearances, if I saw that right as well. He signed that mammoth contract with the Orioles, and then ever since just went on a downward spiral. I have never seen anything like this.
Yeah, it's incredible that he still gets at bats. You're justifying a contract, but my goodness.
This type of futility, is just astronomical. Do you feel bad for the guy? And I know people, may hate on him because of the size of the contract that he originally got. But Matt, do you hate on a guy like this? Do you feel bad for a guy like this, or?
Well, it's not his fault. He got a big contract for one. He was a prolific hitter. He struck out a whole lot when he was hitting well, but he still hit like 40, 50 home runs a year. So I can understand. To some degree, the contract, I don't feel that bad for him because he's making a crap ton of money while he is hitless. I could totally do his job and make that much money, frankly.
Rubes, when you see something like this, do you specifically with Chris Davis? It's the contract. I know it's what Matt said with the contract. You got to somehow justify it, but your team with the Bobby Bonilla type contract, at least you knew he wasn't going to be on the field when you keep paying him. With something like this, what do you see with this, or what's the point of trotting him out there other than just justifying the sum you're paying him?
There is no point at this point. I don't want to sound redundant, but it's futility that is unrivaled. And it was funny because you said Chris Davis. I was like, what, Oakland's Chris Davis? Because that guy's awesome.
Yes.
So they are.
Crush Davis is awesome.
That's just another reason for him to feel awful because somebody's like hijacking his name and putting up amazing stats.
The irony is that Chris Davis spells his name with a K, while this Chris Davis does nothing but K. So
it is bad. If you're an Orioles fan, do you cut your losses at this point?
Well, to be fair, I was in Baltimore over the weekend. I was at Camden Yards for that series. I was at that game where the Yankees put up 15.
What was the reaction of the homers?
To be fair, Yankee fans call Camden Yards Yankee Stadium South. Yeah. Red Sox fans call it Fenway South. I'm sure freaking Tampa fans call it Trop North.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
I actually was talking to some Orioles fans. They absolutely hate Chris Davis. I mean, they feel sympathy for the guy, but they don't want to see him up there anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't. They were tired of it.
Where are they hitting him in the lineup these days?
I think they still try and be pretty flexible with him. I think he was either, and I apologize because I don't remember off top, but I think he was in the middle or lower third of the order.
Wow. So not even like 7, 8, 9.
He was.
I don't think it really matters at this point, does it?
Well, I mean, you still like if somebody is so bad, don't you want to give better hitters the opportunity to come to at bat more often?
Well, it's true. You absolutely would, but I think some of the time is maybe you can eke out a success. Maybe you can drive somebody in. That could be something that comes into play there, and hope for the best. Let's get the guy in our.
You know who I feel sympathy for? Like I think Matt was right. You can't feel sympathy for a guy who's making millions upon millions upon millions. I feel sympathy for the guy he's supposed to be protecting in the lineup. I mean, that guy.
But I did take a quick look, and I was right. He was batting seventh, or he at least was batting seventh as recently as his game against Oakland. So he was batting lower third.
Okay.
So,
yeah, but the guy he's protecting in the lineup, that's the guy you feel sympathy for. Because I mean, they might work around 2 batters in front of that guy if you've got 2 outs on.
Yeah. Just walk people to get to him.
Yeah.
Do this is the first time I think I'll ever say this. In the Orioles case specifically, maybe you want the pitcher to bat.
I wish they could give the American League a one game, like, sort of let the pitcher bat and bat him in front of Davis just to see the intentional walk of the pitcher to get to Davis.
Oh, that's sad.
Do you remember John Lester's hitless streak to start his career? I'm checking that right now because I want to know how it compares to 0 for 66. Okay.
Yeah.
So when he gets to 0 for 66, then I think that's a whole new level of
futility.
Yeah. So he's got what, like,
that's awesome.
If he starts 4 more games, maybe.
So
John Lester's a more prolific hitter than Chris Davis.
He's rivaling a starting pitcher in the National League.
Who didn't even hit for probably the first 10 years of his career.
Oh, that's great.
So we're gonna move on from dumping on a player to actually we still might end up doing this. The Braves just extended recently Ozzie Albies, who is a fantastic power hitting
deal.
This is an amazing deal for the franchise.
For the Braves.
Yeah.
For the Braves, because his contract's worth 7 years, $35 million guaranteed. There's 2 team options for $7 million each. There's a $4 million buyout. And if you take the contract at its maximum value, that is 9 years, $45 million. Now, before I get into this, and maybe as someone who used to consider being an agent, I want to take a look at some of these takes. Like Jeff Passan from MLB says it's typical that an agent criticizes competitors' deals, but I've now heard from executives, players, analytic departments, developmental sides, and scouts who say the Ozzie Albies extension might be the worst contract ever for a player.
Yeah.
Not hyperbole, ever. In context, and the Ringer.com put this context together. Last spring, the Phillies signed a second baseman, Scott Kingery, to a 6-year, $24 million contract with team options that could go 9 years, $66 million. Kingery is 2 years older than Albies now, while Albies has been an all-star. Kingery has not played a game in the majors. Just for comparison.
I was just going to ask who Scott Kingery was.
That is absolutely fair. So, yeah, I mean, this is your division, Ruben.
It's a steal.
All right. Let me ask. If maybe you guys know this, how many years of his initial rookie contract did he have left before he had to renew?
Of his initial rookie contract, I mean, he was on. I don't know his experience offhand, but I mean,
he probably had 4 more years left.
If not more.
Maybe 4.
You're just eligible for arbitration until you're 7 years in.
Let's call it 5 years. Let's say 5 years. So let's just add the 2 extra years that they gave him on the contract. So this.
There's no way you can do this that this makes any sense for Albies.
Like,
None.
I mean, who is the agent? Do you remember?
I don't know who his agent is, but it should be fired for doing it.
I mean, how does Albies sign off on this?
Well, I mean, we've seen the trends, and we've discussed this on several shows, just the growing trend of locking these players up to long-term, team-friendly deals, and players feeling like they need to sign it because they're scared to go to free agency.
Did they not see what happened with Trout? I mean, not that he's good, though. I mean, he's a stud. What is he? 22 years old? 23?
Yeah, Albies.
Jeez.
And we just saw Acuna get a pretty decent deal. I mean, it was great it was good for Acuna, and it was good for the Braves. But this is just horribly one-sided.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the Braves, you got to be smoking cigars and popping champagne because you got 2 young stars locked up. And with the money you just saved on Albies, you could feel.
So what is it? $5 million a year right now for the $7 million? Nice.
It's got to be broken down. I do not have the breakdown in front
Well, but
of me.
it was 7 years, $35 million. So that's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, annual average salary.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Here you go. Albies sent out of Curacao at 16 for $350,000, made essentially another 4 seasons in the minors.
He would have hit.
Did 2021. So that was what?
Well, that would just be his first. That would just be arbitration.
So it's like a 5-year.
But even still, through the arbitration process, right? He has got to at some point have been looking past $5 million. He's one of the game's young, promising stars.
Well, maybe Trout could have sacrificed 1 year of his salary to get him as a hitting coach or a caddy.
I don't know. Albies will not hit free agency until he's almost 31 years old, so he could still turn around and get one more big contract before all's said and done.
At 31.
Yeah,
but that's the age at which what's his face, Harper, refused to sign a deal. He would have been 30 if he'd signed the deal for $45 million a year with the Dodgers, and he would have been 30 when he would have been a free agent again. And that's the age that he refused to be willing to sacrifice a long-term contract to re-sign when he would have made more money. So Albies. The agent's on crack. I don't know what happened there.
I think that's the most fair affirmation of the situation.
Albies, somebody, I don't know, this is going to sound bad, but I don't know. Maybe they presented the contract to him in English and he didn't read it too well, because that is just awful.
I mean,
how do you not bet on yourself? And it's the worst contract I've ever heard of. And actually, they're making $5 million a year, so they're okay. But
well, I mean, he's still getting millions, but it's for a player of that caliber
compared to other players in the same realm as him. He's got to be the lowest paid all-star right now, right?
Yeah, easily.
This is like one of those horror stories where one of the co-founders of Starbucks needed to take money out, loan out to or dissolve his stake in the company to do home repairs, and sells his stake off, for pennies on the dollars. That's what this is what this deal is, pennies on the dollar.
But hey, you know what? Good for Atlanta, I guess. Yeah. They're starting out well. And that kind of bridges us into our last topic of the evening, so to speak. Before we get into this, I did run a Twitter poll, and I do thank everybody who voted in the poll because we actually had a pretty good turnout. I had the poll state, who should be the most concerned over their start to the season? And, we're only, anywhere from 10 to 12 games in at most cases between the Yankees, Red Sox, and Cubs. Amazingly enough, there was 0% that voted for the Yankees, 30% voted for the Cubs, and 70% voted for the Red Sox, who I know both of you guys were doing whatever various countries and things that you were involved in. But the Red Sox, when we did the show last week, had a starting rotation ERA over 9. So I do get that, and we brought up the point, and I know you guys weren't here for this, that Chris Sale has some ticks off his miles per hour on his fastball, that he's been kind of fragile the past few years. Nathan Eovaldi and Rick Porcello are always unknown quantities. Sometimes they can be great for stretches, and then it's like home run derby going on up there. Eduardo Rodriguez is not really a consistent quantity, and David Price has been, well, I mean, I don't want to say he's not been garbage. I'm not going to go that horrendously into him, Adam. But he's been pretty bad at stretches too. So, firstly, before we talk about our respective teams, do you agree with the results of the poll, or what are your thoughts? I mean, I've been very disappointed in my Yankees, but I think that's a fair assessment, and their bullpen was a question mark to begin with. So, first we'll start off, Matt. Since your Cubs came in second in that poll.
We'll come back to the Cubs. It's fine.
I know we'll come back to the Cubs, but do you agree in terms of the poll? Do you agree with the overwhelming majority about the Red Sox?
I do to some degree. I mean, they just won a World Series. You can only feel that so bad for a slow start like that. I mean, you could call it the World Series hangover or something like that.
And he does.
And I do. But they were always going to be predicated on hitting, like basically out-hitting their team. I mean, yeah, they have Chris Sale, yeah, they have David Price. Their pitching was not their strong suit, I feel like, for the most part. It was always going to be predicated on hitting. If their hitting is what's tapering off, I'd be very worried because that's kind of their bread and butter with it. Pitching comes in waves. I mean, everyone gets their bad starts out of the way. I mean, it's a slow start. It's hard to say that it's going to continue. You can't imagine Chris Sale is going to pitch like this the rest of the year. You can't imagine David Price is going to pitch like this the rest of the year. I feel like half the rotation is going to at least turn it around to some degree, and they'll be slightly better. I don't know. I mean, Tampa Bay's running away with the division right now, so
I will get into that or punch a wall. I'm not sure which. Ruben?
I mean, I watched this morning. Buster Olney said of all the teams, actually, the same 4 teams that you put on your Twitter poll, they were asking if you were a fan of one of those franchises, which one would you be concerned of? And Buster Olney, without hesitation, said the Red Sox, and he mentioned their mid-8 ERA as a team.
Oh, so they did lower it for last Friday by a little bit.
Oh, they gave up 7 runs. Matt said that Chris Sale's going to turn it around. Gosh, I'd be nervous, man, because his fastball is not a tick. It's like 8-9 miles an hour.
Or lower.
So there's something mechanically wrong or something structurally wrong.
I think I brought up, and I don't know if you guys will agree with this or not, because I've seen a lot of Chris Sale, throughout his career, and I honestly think he's one of the best top 5 pitchers of this generation. But my concern with him is he's a very, very tall dude who is thin as a rail, who throws extremely hard. And I don't say that you have to be this jacked, ripped thing to throw 100 miles an hour, but your body cannot take. You've seen guys who are proportionately more muscular or structurally sound than him blow. I mean, Luis Severino on the Yankees is having arm trouble.
Yeah.
I give credit for Sale for doing what he's done as long as he's done, but I don't know that you can hinge a bet that he'll bounce back necessarily. And something like you just said, where something further might be wrong.
Well, he's what I would call a slinger. Like when his rotation comes through, it looks like his arm is lagging behind his body and it's slinging through. And the only person that I can think of that had just ridiculous consistency, and Sale's had great consistency. I don't mean to kind of denigrate what he's already accomplished, but the only person I've seen do that slingshot sort of delivery over and over for a great period of time, I would say Randy Johnson. And he had a similar, like
he was a little more built, I feel like, than
he was a skinny dude, but
he's more jacked.
But he had maybe I'm
intimidating.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't remember Johnson having even at the later stages of his career being as broken, and I'm not saying broken down in terms of he's done or something, but breaking down as much as Chris Sale seems to have done the past 3 or so years.
And the thing that I think about, like, is the modern Major League Baseball, is it driven by paying your young hitters more than your young pitchers? Because pitching is such a flux, and like, who's the most consistent pitcher that I can think of right now? I'd say year over year over a year, and not including injuries. I'd say Max Scherzer is the one who's proven over and over and over, and he can take on the load. But I mean, DeGrom's there obviously, but the greatest pitcher probably of this generation is Kershaw.
Yeah.
And people don't even talk about him anymore because he's unreliable.
His back is out every other week.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on the guy.
No,
I think
not.
Kershaw's the best pitcher I've ever seen pitch.
Yeah. And so like the crazy thing is if you're management, I can understand reservations on pitchers because it fluctuates so much more than hitters. Hitters, I mean, except for the Yankees, merry-go-round of hitters that are on the DL, hitters just, I feel like it's a more predictable commodity than pitching. And that's like kind of augmented and reinforced by Keuchel and Kimbrel. They're still out there. And nobody wants to pay.
It blows my mind. I did want to bring up Keuchel and Kimbrel, but we'll do that kind of interwoven into this as we go into our own teams. I will start out, since we've been talking about the AL East, and just, again, this is now 12 players on the injured list for the Yankees. We have Sabathia coming back this weekend. Another couple weeks out maybe for Aaron Hicks and Giancarlo Stanton. Miguel Andujar has been throwing and not feeling any pain, which is a great sign. So he might be back maybe early May. So we might start to get this a reprieve. And being 5-7 right now, we're not out of anything per se. The starting pitching has held up really well. The bullpen has been extremely shaky. Britton hasn't looked that great. Chad Green, who's normally stalwart in the back end, has given up some runs and not been as succinct as normal. But when you're in a division with the Blue Jays and the Orioles and the Red Sox are performing as poorly as they are, you do have to look at the Tampa Rays, because Tampa's been consistent. Tampa's winning and looks good. Their starting rotation looks surprisingly better than I thought it would. They're getting key hits when
sub-2 ERA as a team.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Did they really?
Yeah,
1.98 or something.
Good Lord.
So they pitch well, they defend well. People think, oh, it's still early, what have you. Tampa won 90 games last year.
Yeah.
People are sleeping on Tampa because it's not a big market team.
And they have the reigning Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah.
Who's actually not even pitching that well compared to everybody else on that team.
So they can sneakily do some things.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the AL East, as obviously I often do, it could be a 1 or 2 team race. I'm curious what the Yankees will do once they're at full strength, but that may not even be till June or July.
Yeah. The
way it's looking. So it's very interesting, and I'm not in panic mode. I know a lot of fellow Yankee fans out there are. I wouldn't worry yet. Maybe we have to backdoor into the playoffs again as a wild card team. It's very feasible at this moment, but there's still a long road to hoe. And thankfully, it looks like we're not going to lose Andujar for the year. We'll have Stanton and Hicks back soon. Didi out a little bit longer than I would particularly care for. And then you just have the normal carousel. I think Jacoby Ellsbury should just maybe stay on the injured list. I don't think anyone anticipates him playing anytime this decade. But, I don't think things are as bleak as maybe some Yankee fans are trying to make it out to be. But, again,
we're 12 games in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
not even a 10th of the year.
But I want to continue on the poor performance and poor start train before we have to punch Ruben in the face. Matt, I did want to make this point before we go into that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But one half of this equation affects me. One half of this equation affects you. With Severino was just recently diagnosed with a latch strain, so he'll be out even further. James Paxton hasn't looked great. J Happ hasn't looked great. CC, Paxton, Tanaka all have, I'd say, considerable injury concerns. And Dallas Keuchel is still a free agent. That blows my mind. That absolutely blows my mind. I think at the end of our discussions, we'll talk about maybe where some of these guys can go on our own teams. I brought up Keuchel because I hope you'll bring up maybe Kimbrel in terms of what's going on with you guys. So with that, Matt, tell us about your Cubs and have you drunk yourself into a stupor yet?
Well, they won today, so they're a robust 5-8 now. Only 3 games out of first. Their bullpen is an absolute dumpster fire. So our starting pitch has actually been more or less decent for the most part. Lester got hurt, so that's kind of annoying, but Quintana had a really good game. Granted, since the Pirates are not like a powerhouse by any means. Hamels pitched 8 innings today, gave up 1 run against the Troutless Angels. I will add that Trout was not playing.
Oh, yeah?
Pujols hit a home run because he just does that.
Against the Cubs, of course.
Against the Cubs, of course. But, no, pitching is obviously the biggest concern for the Cubs. Their offense, I think they're like 3rd or 4th in total runs as a team in the league. It's just they just give up a crap ton of runs. That's really just their bullpen has just fallen apart, and they've sent Carl Edwards to the minor leagues. They've sent I think Brandon Kinsler was down in the minor leagues for a little bit. They've sent a couple people down and brought up some younger arms just to try to rejuvenate the bullpen a little bit.
So would you say that they brought Carl Edwards to Carl Jr.'s?
I don't even know if I want to warrant that with a response.
Would you Adam Warren it with a response?
Oh no, he did not last very long as a Cub, but no, I think kind of like you're saying with your Yankees, it's so early in the season, and everyone goes through these 5-8 stretches throughout the season. It just happens to be at the beginning, so everyone has to freak out and think it's the end of the world. And their team's going to continue to be sub 500 the rest of the year. The Cubs hitting, I'm not worried about at all. I think Jason Hayward, of all people, leads the team in home runs.
Oh, God.
Their backup catcher was hitting like over 600 through 10 games or something. I mean, they're having contributions across the board from a lot of kind of unknown players. So offensively, they're going to be fine. If their their pitching kind of catch up with them, I think they're going to be okay. They'll compete with the Cardinals and the Brewers for sure.
All right, it's something to keep your eyes peeled for, or keep your head under a pillow, depending on which way it goes.
Yeah, well, it's trending up. I will say that.
It's trending up.
All right, wait, so one victory is a trend upwards.
Well, they're
yes.
2-7. They're 3-1 in their last 4.
Okay.
I'm considering that a win or a bunch of wins, I guess.
So now we have to sit here and take this gloating jerk off.
No, there's no gloating here.
Yeah, didn't they start like this last? Actually,
no, they were 11-1 last year. So let me not get ahead of myself. So the Mets are 8-4 right now. They, I believe, are a half game up on the Phillies. So it's been a pretty good start. But here's the crazy thing: it's not the pitching. The pitching is actually pretty darn awful. I mean, DeGrom's had a couple of great starts, and he actually gave up a boatload of runs the other day.
I have to ask. So, avid listener and horrifying ginger person, Brett Arkin, wanted me to ask you about, do you think that has anything to do with Travis d'Arnaud catching DeGrom in that game where he was so bad?
Well, I mean, it's like... remember the movie Braveheart?
Yeah.
When Edward the Longshanks is consulting his son, or he had thrown his lover out the window, and then he punched his son in the gut, and he's trying to think about like who he's going to send to go negotiate with William Wallace, and he's like, if I send my son, the mere sight of him, and his son is like bent over crying, the mere sight of him might only encourage the enemy to take over all of England. So I think that maybe there's something there, the Travis d'Arnaud effect. The sight of pitching to him just was revolting, and affected his performance. And all of the Minnesota Twins hitters are like, if this guy's catching him, we got this guy. So I think, Brett, you're onto something.
So say no to d'Arnaud.
Say no to d'Arnaud. Wow, that sounds like pedophile language 101.
We're veering in places I don't want to go.
That's also in the pedophile language 101.
I'm not veering in a white van, but thank you. So I know you were excited also to kind of talk about the one-man show, Peter Alonso.
Oh, man. Paul Bunyan, Peter Alonso. So
Mine's better.
What do you call it?
What do you call him?
The one-man show, Peter Alonso.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Bunyan.
I mean, it's like that big axe. He's just a big dude.
Does he have a blue ox or anything?
Well. We're not going there, guys.
Can we just stop all
right.
the things?
Hey, here we go.
Question. I don't know.
So this is 2 games ago, and this was via The Athletic, because Alonso... the Mets could have left him in spring training for an extra year of team control, but they told him it was going to be a meritocracy. If he earned the position, they were going to take him with them, and they were going to play to win. So as of 2 days ago, and here's his stats. He collected 11 extra base hits in his first 10 career games, 2 more than anyone else in Major League history. He's the first Met with 5 home runs in his first 10 games. His 15 RBIs through 11 games are a franchise record. And entering Wednesday... he's the most valuable first baseman in baseball, accounting for 0.8 wins above replacement, and he was 3rd as of 2 days ago in slugging percentage behind Bellinger for the Dodgers and one Mike Trout for the Angels. He is now 2nd because he hit a 454-foot, 118.3 exit velo homer last night, straightaway center field, which is the 9th hardest hit ball since
StatCast began track. Yeah,
only trailing a couple of Yankees.
The same 2 that keep jacking the list every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton.
I think we have another New Yorker who's gonna put his name into the running there.
So what you're saying is that it's gonna be a pretty, it's gonna be a laser show in New York this summer.
Yeah, there you go for your one-man band.
62 and 100, but he'll have like 60 home
runs. Hey, we're 8-4, guys. We only need.
You were 11-1. How did that season?
We only need to win 59 more to exceed your expectations.
Listen, Mets gonna Met.
Hey, we also are on a World Series hangover. 34 years now.
I haven't won a World Series in 10 years. Shut up. Wait.
It's been
no
three.
one feels any sympathy for us right now, man.
No, that's fine.
No one ever feels sympathy for the Yankees.
They felt something for the Cubs prior to 2016. Now
Hey,
we're...
And I know that none of us is a fan, but can we give a shout out to the Mariners?
What are they, like 13-2 or something?
13-2.
That's insane.
They're averaging like 9 runs a game.
And not only that, they were shipping away assets.
Mostly to you.
Yes.
I think that's a good. This is a good discussion to kind of end on for the night. Is the Mariners streak sustainable?
No.
No.
The Astros,
100%
let's give a shout out to the Seattle because they're going to go to a funeral this weekend in Houston.
Yeah, the Yankees just got swept by Houston for the first time in history.
Yeah, in history.
Yep.
What, in ever?
The Yankees.
Oh, well,
Houston
I
was
guess
in the
Houston.
National
Yeah, Houston was
League,
a
yeah.
National League team for the longest time. So, but yeah, no, 13-2 is not sustainable.
There's
And-
the 116 runs in 15 games.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are they averaging a game? Like 11?
It's like 9 runs or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm not an engineer. Matt's like I am.
Matt engineers all solutions.
That's just division. That you could like elementary school kids can do that.
We can't. We can't math.
What are you saying about my Puerto Rican education?
I don't know what to tell you.
Throw a paper towel at him.
Nueve runs.
This is good. I think all the horrible myths and jokes and what have you have been good. And so we can feel comfortable ending on that.
I promise
That's a
we're
good
all decent people, even Matt.
Yep.
Especially Matt.
I try.
Lord Matthew is the best of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a low standard.
I have set the bar extremely low.
I want to give one quick shout out to the NCAA champion Virginia Cavaliers.
Woo!
Because that was awesome.
I thought we could go UVA-less.
We can't. I have to say it once. We're good.
It's entitled.
There'll be some people that'll probably hate that, but I don't care.
I'll put it in the tags for the show, so people seeing that it's a UVA tag will be like, "This is not college basketball."
I will
And
wear
that's
it
fair enough.
proudly. That's fine. It's the last time I'll say it on the show ever.
Probably not
Until next year.
until next year, and when they
they
get bounced
repeat.
first round.
We will UMBC.
Well, on that note, UMB seeing you next week.
Perfect.
Excellent. We will drop on that note, and Ruben would like to do the closing, the sign off.
Always be a fan.